Double overtime win. I'll take it.
You are Locked On Syracuse, your daily podcast on the Syracuse Orange. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Well, did you all enjoy that one? A double overtime thriller in the Dome this afternoon. Syracuse basketball takes down the Youngstown State Penguins in double overtime, 104-95. Hello, everyone. I'm Jackson Holzer, and this is Locked On Syracuse. And thank you so much for making us your first listen of every single day here on the Locked On Podcast Network, where it's your team every day, and we are free and available wherever you get your podcasts. And folks, we are going to talk about that crazy game, that crazy basketball game that we just watched. Syracuse needing two overtimes to take down, to beat Youngstown State this afternoon. Then we're also going to do a stock up and stock down. Which players look good through 3 games? Which players not so good, maybe underachieving so far. And we'll also talk about the road ahead for Syracuse basketball because, folks, the schedule is about to get a whole lot tougher for this team. And by the way, guys, this is the first of 2 post-game reaction podcasts today because we got a football game going on right now. This basketball team just was like, let's go 2 overtimes so nobody can watch football. Syracuse football is currently up 13-0 on the road at Cal in the second quarter at the time of this recording, and I have that tab pulled up, so I'll be able to check in on the live stats throughout. But there will be a post-game reaction to that game as well. So after you're done with this podcast, look for the football reaction video shortly after. Before we get to everything breaking down this game, today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. You can start the season with a big return on FanDuel. New customers can place a $5 bet, and you'll get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. So, folks, how we feeling? Syracuse basketball 3-0. It took 2 overtimes to do it against Kentucky, better known as Youngstown State. But you know what? See, the last podcast against Colgate, I was upset, even though Syracuse had won the game. I was admittedly angry, and I said repeatedly on that podcast, this is the most angry I have ever been at Syracuse in a win, because I just didn't think they played well. I didn't think they deserved to beat Colgate, an inferior team. But for today's podcast, I'm actually in a pretty good mood. And the reason why I'm in a good mood is because, well, they won the game, right? It's always better to win than to lose, even when you're playing against Youngstown State. But it's also because of what happened last night. So I told myself coming into the day, and by the way, now it's 13-6, Syracuse football, so they just let up a touchdown. But I told myself coming into the day that, you know what, after last night, regardless of what happens to either team, I'm just going to give them a mulligan. Not by their performance, by any means. This goes for basketball and for football. But I'm going to give them a mulligan because I'm in a cheerful mood about the Kiyan Anthony news last night. So let's talk about the good that came from Syracuse basketball in this one. Well, the stop at the end of regulation. It was a clutch stop. Let's start there because this was 2 overtimes. End of regulation. Syracuse basketball is tied at 73 after a J.J. Starling coast-to-coast layup with 8.6 seconds left. And the Orange, they need a stop. In the first 2 games, the defense needed a stop in order to win the game. This time, they needed a stop just to force overtime. It was tied at 73 with 8.6 to go. And credit to Syracuse's defense on this one. Nelson turns it over, trying to feed his center in the middle, but it was an example of good help defense by Eddie Lampkin. I believe Nelson, his name is Jason Nelson, he beat his man off the dribble, driving down the right, but you had Eddie Lampkin there rotating. It forced Nelson to pass, and he makes an errant pass trying to find his center Dines, and that's why we got to overtime. And the reason why I bring up that possession, not only because it was a big possession in the game, but also because Youngstown State, their first 6 points, I know, and there were 95 of them because it was double overtime, but the first 6 points that they scored in this game all came on layups with no help defense. None, zero. Like, blow-bys are going to happen. They are, but you need a help defender. That's just how it works in basketball. And the first 6 points of the game, Syracuse did not have a help defender, which led to 3 layups for Youngstown State to open. On that last possession, look at that. Eddie Lampkin is there for help defense after I believe it was Starling that got beat. And it forced an errant pass. And now we're in overtime. I thought the play of the game was going to be this play where Eddie Lampkin is getting double teamed in the right post area. He's just outside of the paint. We're in the first overtime. There's about 2 minutes left. Syracuse is up by 3 at this point. And Eddie Lampkin all game long had showed off his passing skills. I mean, this isn't a hot take. He's the best passer on the team. It's not even close. He's the best passing player on this team. He might be the best passing big man in the country. He's just so good. It's like he's got eyes in the back of his head. And he gets doubled in the right post area. And he hits Chris Bell, who's standing all alone in the paint. Now, credit to Youngstown State. They recognized just when Bell got the ball. But to Bell's credit, he goes up strong, gets the layup to drop, and a foul. And he makes the free throw too. More on free throws in a moment. But that puts Syracuse up 84-78 with about a minute and 37 seconds left. After they then get a stop on defense, Jaquan Carlos had a great defensive possession on that one. I know he actually had a little bit of defense at the end. They eventually go up by 8 with a minute to go in the first overtime. Now, folks, when you're up 8 points with a minute left in the game, I don't care if it's regulation or overtime, you think you're going to win. Well, that's not what happened. Youngstown State hits 2 threes back-to-back. And then Jaquan Carlos misses 2 free throws with 17.7 seconds to go. Youngstown State goes down the other end with their free throws with Harper, and they tie the game at 86-86. So we go to double overtime. But in double overtime, that's where Syracuse basketball was able to hang on to the lead when they got it. Elijah Moore hit his first career collegiate 3 to open the overtime, put Syracuse up 89-87. It was off a great offensive rebound by Eddie Lampkin. When we get to stock up and stock down, I'm going to give you guys a little hint. Eddie Lampkin is going to be on the stock up. But Elijah Moore hits his first career collegiate 3. And the reason why Moore was in the game is because Carlos fouled out. And then from then on, Syracuse and Youngstown State, they were trading buckets. But I don't believe after Elijah Moore's 3, I don't think Syracuse trailed in this one after that. I don't think they did. They just kept going back and forth. And eventually, it came down to free throws. Syracuse hits their free throws. Both the freshmen do it, Elijah Moore and Donnie Freeman. And Syracuse wins this game 104-95. Leave your comments in the comment section below, your thoughts on this game. It was a wild one, but they found a way to win, and they are 3-0. And like I said at the top, I'm in a cheerful mood. They got Kyan Anthony last night. If they had lost this game, it would have been very difficult for me to be in a good mood, but I vowed to myself going into the day that I will give them a mulligan no matter what after what happened last night, because it was great news. And I want to try to savor that for as long as possible. So Syracuse basketball wins 104-95 in double overtime over Youngstown State. Just did you a brief little synopsis of the ending, which was insane. I highly recommend you go checking out the highlights when you have a chance to. Syracuse finds a way to win. And they are now 3-0 to start the season like they should be, but they are 3-0. Now coming up, we'll play a little bit of stock up and stock down. Nothing delivers comfort and joy quite like the unrivaled quality and taste of Omaha Steaks. This year, skip the holiday hustle and bustle and save 50% off gourmet gifts site-wide at omahasteaks.com. Plus, get a $30 reward card when you shop early and store an extra $30 off with promo code COLLEGE. With 5 generations of experience, they consistently deliver the world's best steak experience. And the gifting experts at Omaha Steaks have made it easy to deliver the best or the perfect gift with thoughtfully curated gift packages starting at $89.99. From legendary steaks to mouth-watering desserts and more, save 50% off site-wide at omahasteaks.com. Plus, our listeners get an extra $30 off with promo code COLLEGE and a $30 reward card when you shop early. That's 50% off at omahasteaks.com, OMAHA steaks.com, and an extra $30 off with promo code COLLEGE. Minimum purchase may apply. Once again, we're recapping Syracuse basketball's 104-95 double overtime victory over Youngstown State. I'm Jackson Holzer, and this is Locked On Syracuse. This is the first of 2 post-game reaction shows today. We are talking about basketball right now, but here's a little football update for you. As I am recording this podcast, Syracuse football has just taken a 20-7 lead over Cal with 9:52 to go in the second quarter. I promise, folks, I'm going to be watching all of the highlights from the first half, but I cannot be watching it right now. I am following along the live stats to that game as I record this, though. So, hey, Syracuse football off to a very good start. They started on time. Anyway, let's talk some basketball, stock up and stock down. Here are some players who I think have certainly risen their value, at least in this game and over the last 3 games, I should say. It's a little combo of both. How about that? I think, first of all, I'm sorry I didn't mention him off the top, but JJ Starling had maybe the best day of his life, at least in his college career. He finished with 38 points, 14 of 23 from the field. He played 49 minutes. He was terrific. I stopped myself because I think that might have been the best game he played since last year against North Carolina at home. Remember that one? Syracuse pulled off that big upset. Him and Judah Mintz went off that night. I think this might have been Starling's best game since that one. I know he didn't have the same points in that one, but he played terrific, and that game didn't go 2 overtimes. This one did. He had an extra 10 minutes. He was basically Syracuse's offense at the end of regulation and in the first overtime. He was the offense. They were just giving him the ball, and there was nothing that Youngstown State could do. He just kept attacking the basket. He kept attacking the basket. It's really that simple. So I would give him a stock up. I think the first 2 games, he averaged about 13 points. He had 26 combined points, so that's 13 a game over the first 2. It wasn't disappointing, but he wasn't necessarily taking that jump that we were all expecting. In this game, he took that jump. He was, I think, I don't know, was he the best player on the team? He was definitely the best scorer on the team for Syracuse basketball because he was their offense at the end of regulation and in the first overtime. We'll continue with more stock up players, but let's first go to a stock down. This is a player who I had high hopes for heading into this season. I thought he did an excellent job in the exhibition games. I thought we saw a lot from him. But Jaquan Carlos has not played well. He didn't play well in this game. He hasn't played well in 3 games. Jaquan Carlos is a transfer from Hofstra. He's the starting point guard as of right now for Syracuse basketball. And I like the kid. I think he's got a good personality. Everything that I hear from him is good things. So this is not a personal shot against Jaquan Carlos. But he's not playing well. He's not. He was an all-conference defender over at Hofstra. I think a 2-time all-conference defender there. And the question mark coming into the season with him was, well, can that translate to ACC play, right? It's one thing to be an all-conference defender when you're playing at Hofstra. That's one thing. Cool. But can you do it when you're playing against ACC competition? And what's concerning right now is that Carlos is struggling. He's struggling against Lemoyne, against Colgate, against Youngstown State. That's who he's struggling against. So it's much more concerning than, oh, he looked really good in the first 3 games, and then, hey, they play Texas next Thursday, and now all of a sudden he struggles. You see what I'm saying here? Like, I wasn't expecting this from him. I really wasn't. I thought he was going to be better than this, but he hasn't played well. His shot is also not falling. He was 1 of 6 from the field today. He had 3 assists, so 4 points and 3 assists in 30 minutes from your starting point guard. It's not the greatest. And I think the thing that really ticked me off about Carlos, honestly, he had a chance to win this game. I mean, I'm not going to count the half-court buzzer beater that he took at the end of regulation. That's not what I'm talking about. But with about 7-ish seconds to go, no, there were 17 seconds to go. In the first overtime, Syracuse is up by 2 points. They're up 86-84. Carlos gets fouled. They're in the double bonus, so there's no pressure of a 1-and-1. They're in the double bonus. You get 2 shots. And he misses both free throws. At that point, and then he fouled out on the next defensive possession. At that point, I just said, I don't know what to, I can't right now. He's not playing well. I think going forward, what Syracuse should do is I think they should start Starling at the 1 and put in Elijah Moore as the starting 2. I think that's the solution. So stock down has got to be Jaquan Carlos. Stock up has got to be JJ Starling. Now, let's continue with the stock ups. Let's go back to that. Eddie Lampkin. Eddie Lampkin had 20 points, 13 rebounds, and 7 assists in 41 minutes, and he's doing it with a bad back. He's got a back injury he's nursing right now. He's got his deficiencies. We know what they are. He's not the greatest defender in the world. He's not. But you know what he is? He's a very, very good center. That's the best way to put it. He can do so many things well. He can score a little. He can rebound. And he's the best passing big man maybe in the country. They can run the offense through him. There were many times throughout this game where Eddie Lampkin, as I said earlier, had eyes in the back of his head. He's got very good court awareness. I think that's the best way to put it. He just knows where everyone at least is supposed to be. And he had 7 assists in this one. He was sensational. And another thing that he does, sorry, I'm just adjusting myself here, but another thing that he does is provide a lot of energy and spark. He's physical down low. He's really physical. And so even when this team, look, Syracuse, I mean, we haven't really talked about the start of this game, but in the first half, they lacked a lot of energy. But the one guy who you can count on will provide some energy and toughness is Eddie Lampkin. So yeah, he does have some deficiencies, but he's a very, very capable starting center in the ACC. He has been very, very impressive this season. Donnie Freeman had his best game, 19 points, 12 rebounds. He was a big man. Also hit a 3-pointer in this one. If he can get his outside shot to fall, that changes everything. That's really what it's going to come down to. He's got all the physical traits, and I think over time you'll start to see some mental errors that he makes kind of go away because he's still getting his feet wet. But if he's hitting that outside jumper, he's unguardable. Seriously, he's 6'9". He's long. He's good inside the paint. Again, not the greatest defender, but no one really is on this Syracuse team. If he's hitting that outside jumper, you can't guard him. You can't. So, very, very impressed from what I saw with Donnie Freeman. I think you can say stock down Chris Bell, but that's one that I have more faith in. He's going to figure it out. He only had 9 points. He was 1 of 8 from 3-point. He hit the side of a backboard on a corner 3, and I don't really remember. I think it happened in the second half of this game. He was not on tonight. He wasn't. Or I shouldn't say tonight. Today. He wasn't on. But that's something that going forward, I think you can expect that it'll correct itself. I think overall this season, he hasn't shot the ball well from three. I'm looking at his numbers right now. His first game, he was 2 of 6 from three. And his second game, he was 1 of 4 from three. And today he was 1 for 8. Overall this season, he has made 4 threes on 18 attempts. 4 of 18 is 22%. So Chris Bell has been struggling from three to start this season. But that's something that I expect over time is going to correct itself. He shot 42% from three last year. So I'm not too worried. So even though stock down right now for Chris Bell, it's because his shot is not falling. I still think he's a more complete player on offense, but when his shot is not falling, it's still not very good, obviously. So I think that does it, I think, for stock up and stock down on some of these players. I think I nailed it for the most part, I think. If you have any more players you want to talk about, stock up and stock down. Coaching, I think it can improve as well, but you know what? Stock up, you got Kai and Anthony last night. All 4 players in 2025 have signed, so nothing about coaching right now. Leave your thoughts in the comments section below. Stock up and stock down on some of the players from Syracuse this game and over the course of the first 3 games, because coming up, we're going to talk about the road ahead for Syracuse basketball. Get ready to tackle the NFL action with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook, because right now new customers can bet $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if you win. The FanDuel Sportsbook app gives you everything you need to place live bets on the NFL all in one place. So when you get a hunch in the middle of a game, you can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you place your bets. Folks, Syracuse football heading into today, on FanDuel at least, last I checked, they were an 8.5-point underdog at Cal. Right now, at this very moment, they are up 20-7 with about 5-ish minutes left in the first half. So signs are looking pretty good for Syracuse. Hopefully, they can hold on to that. But signs right now are looking pretty good. They got a 4th down in Cal territory. It's 4th and 3. I imagine they're going to kick a field goal. Wouldn't be surprised if they go for it. But regardless, if you bet Syracuse to maybe even pull off an upset, they were at plus 260, I think, heading into today. Right now, it's looking pretty good, and hopefully that can continue. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today. You'll get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. That's FanDuel.com. Never waste a hunch and make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. I'm Jackson Holzer. This is Locked On Syracuse, and this is a post-game reaction show to Syracuse basketball's 104-95 double overtime victory over Youngstown State. With the victory, Syracuse basketball is 3-0 to start this season. Folks, we're going to talk about the road ahead now. The schedule is about to get a lot tougher for Syracuse. Look, the best thing that you can say about Syracuse so far, well, really the best thing you can say is their recruiting in 2025 looks pretty good. That's really the best thing you can say. But as far as this year's team, the best thing that you can say, or the most optimistic way to look at it, is they are 3-0. It was ugly. They're going to lose so much points in Ken Pom and in the net. Analytically, they're probably terrible. Just laying out facts, folks. But the other fact is that they are 3-0. In each of the 3 games, they avoided disaster. They have. Oh, by the way, Syracuse football did go for it, and they got it. And now they're knocking on the door, 1st and goal at the 6. Okay, back to basketball here. Sorry, I'm juggling the 2. The road ahead schedule looks like this, okay? At Texas on Thursday. It's not actually at Texas. It's a neutral site game, so I shouldn't say at Texas, but for my app, it says at Texas. Neutral site at the Barclays Center Thursday night for the Legends Classic. Then on Friday, they're going to play again. They're going to play on back-to-back days. They're going to play the winner or loser of St. Joe's and Texas Tech. Whatever combination it is a whole lot tougher than what they have gone through right now. Lemoyne, Colgate, Youngstown State. For context about Youngstown State heading into today, they lost by 34 points on Monday to Ohio State. Now, I know Ohio State is a ranked team who actually beat Texas. But still, Syracuse should be blowing these teams out that they're playing, and they're barely winning. You got Texas on Thursday. The best way you got to hope that this team, despite what the evidence suggests, is that they're just not playing well right now, that they're not firing on all cylinders, but they can just pull it all together against Texas. Right now, though, it doesn't look great. And then obviously Friday is not going to be easy with St. Joe's or Texas Tech. Then you got Wednesday, November 27th to close the month. You're playing Cornell at home. And at this point, no game feels like it's going to be a win or an auto win for Syracuse. It doesn't feel like that. You can't think like, oh, Cornell at home, easy win. It's not, because of what these first 3 games have been. Then December 3rd, SEC ACC Challenge, you're going on the road to Tennessee. You're in trouble. Then you got at Notre Dame, the first ACC game of the schedule. You're in trouble. The bottom line is this. They got to play a whole lot better. They really do. They're late on their rotations on defensive assignments. I think the transition defense was a little bit better today. How many transition points did Youngstown State have? It couldn't have been much. Looking at the split box right now, Youngstown State, they had 14 fast break points in 2 overtimes. I would say that's pretty good. The other night was awful for Syracuse. But they're late on their defensive assignments at times. Blow-bys are still happening. And my goodness, the next time they made this adjustment at the end, and thank goodness they did, but really in the beginning portions of this game, Syracuse basketball kept going underneath screens to guys that can shoot the basketball, and Youngstown State was making them. They were. They got to play a whole lot better, and they got to play a whole lot cleaner, because the schedule is about to get a whole lot tougher. That's just the deal. The good news, Syracuse basketball is 3-0. Thank you for making Locked On Syracuse your first listen today. For your second listen, you can check out the Locked On ACC podcast. And by the way, guys, stay tuned for later on in the day, because I'll have a Syracuse football post-game reaction show. I'm looking at the score right now. They're up 27-7 on Cal late in the first half. Amazing. But anyways, back to Locked On ACC with Alex Dono and Kempton Gibbs. They keep it real, and they bring you the truth about where your favorite team stands within the conference. Find Locked On ACC on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts. Folks, thank you all so much for watching. Thank you all so much for listening. If you like this video, click that like button. If you really liked it, subscribe to the channel. Turn on those notifications so you know right away when I am dropping the next podcast. And everyone, take care.